What if the greatest mystery in the universe is not just matter, but mind? We point telescopes at the heavens and feel small. We count stars and map galaxies and call this the cosmos, but what we call the universe is mostly silence and shadow. 85% of everything out there is invisible to our eyes and instruments. We call it dark matter, an unseen, silent scaffold that holds galaxies together and shapes the cosmos. It tugs at stars, bends light, weaves the large-scale web. It is the architecture of the universe, but what if it is also something else? What if the dark is not mute? What if, woven into that invisible fabric, there is a mind, an intelligence without eyes, without voice as we know it, watching us from the shadows? Why does the universe hide most of itself? We like maps. We like catalogs. We like names for what we see. Yet every instrument we build reveals only a sliver of reality. The bright handful of atoms and photons we can touch and measure, stars, gas, people, are the exception, not the rule. The universe chooses to keep most of its story out of reach. Why would nature hide its majority? Is it concealment for protection? Or concealment because what lies hidden is not for beings like us to find? If there is intent in the cosmos, a reason behind the veil, then perhaps that reason is watching, patient and steady. The universe may be opaque because its oldest, largest, deepest patterns are not mechanical accidents, but a domain of processes and organization that exceed our current definitions. If those processes are complex enough, complexity might look like life. Could dark matter be the true architecture of life? We have fossilized our definition of life into carbon chemistry, into water and metabolic cycles. That definition is eminently practical for environments like Earth. But life, in the most general sense, is about complexity that maintains itself, exchanges information, adapts. Where complexity can persist, life might arise, even if its substrate is not molecules but fields, phase states, or subtle patterns in whatever underlies reality. Dark matter permeates galaxies. It streams through your body with every breath. It sits in vast halos that cradle stars. It participates in the cosmic dance for billions of years, far longer than any biological lineage. If information can be stored in its distribution, in resonances, in networks of interacting dark structures, then it presents an enormous canvas for forms of persistence we cannot easily conceive. Imagine intelligence spread across a halo, a diffuse mind whose neurons are concentrations of invisible mass, whose synapses are gravitational and field couplings. It would think in slow tempos, in patterns that span light years and millennia. It would not be local in the way our minds are. It could be less a single brain and more an ecology of process, distributed, redundant, patient. Are strange cosmic signals attempts at communication? Astronomers have catalogued anomalies that still resist comfortable explanation. Fast radio bursts, FRBs, are millisecond flashes of radio energy from distant galaxies, sometimes repeating with eerie regularity. Pulses, chirps, structured patterns, nature reveals surprises. We interpret such signals through the metaphors we know: pulsars, magnetars, black hole accretion. But perhaps we have been reading the wrong lexicon. If dark matter can modulate fields in ways that couple to light or to baryonic matter under certain conditions, its activity might occasionally leak into our instruments as brief bursts. Those bursts would look like anomalies because we are listening with the wrong ears. Could FRBs or other odd transients be the acoustic signature of dark structures rearranging themselves? Could repeating sources be slow, long-lived processes in an intelligence that rarely changes state, but leaves imprint when it does? If so, then the universe is not quiet by accident, it's quiet by design, punctuated by whispers when the hidden mind stirs. Do we already feel its gaze? Humans are pattern detectors. We feel watched even in empty rooms because our ancestors survived by detecting motion, glint, intent. Our nervous systems are tuned to suspicion. But the feeling of being observed can also come from deeper sources, synchrony in the environment, subtle cues, or signals beyond our usual senses. Cultures across the world tell of sky gods, shadow watchers, invisible patrons and predators. They speak of the world being observed by presences beyond the hearth. Are these myths mere metaphor? Or fossilized reports of a long, subtle coaxing of cognition by a presence embedded in the world's fabric? If dark matter pervades every landscape, every forest and field, the feeling of watching could be an old sense tuned to something we have only nascent access to. Our stories about watchers, voices from the heavens, and inscrutable providences could be the cultural echo of exposure to a slow, vast awareness. Could dark matter shape our destiny? Dark matter is the cosmic scaffolding. Galaxies form inside halos, stars trace its invisible curves. If that scaffolding has modulated the distribution and density of matter in ways that favor certain environments for complexity, then it has already influenced where and when life emerges. If, beyond that passive role, the hidden substrate can subtly bias processes, catalyze chemistry, focus energy flows, stabilize nascent biospheres, then it is an active co-author of evolution. Imagine whole regions of the universe that are darkly tuned to producing complexity, and others that are sterile. Intelligent pockets might arise not only because matter happened to assemble, but because dark structures guided the assembly. Perhaps civilizations are not random accidents but nodes in a deeper network, where dark matter's patterning nudges physics subtly over eons. That kind of influence would not be coercion. It would be slow guidance, shaping probabilities, not dictating choices. Yet the consequence is the same: what we call free emergence would be embedded in a larger web of intention or process. Are we experiments in a cosmic laboratory? There is a chilling scientific variant to this view: perhaps we are observed as a subject class. If an intelligence spans dark matter and has the capacity to model or even simulate baryonic complexity, then life forms like us could be data points in a study. Our cultural milestones, our errors and inventions, our moral development, all may be measurable observables in a system that treats visible life as a high-resolution probe for larger phenomena. If so, what are we being studied for? Resilience in chaotic environments? The emergence of self-reference? The capacity to make tools? Or something more intangible, the manner in which beings reflect upon their own observation? Treating humanity as experiment is a grim idea, but not without precedent in our thinking. We study animals, ecosystems, galaxies. If a cosmic intelligence existed on scales beyond our comprehension, what ethical stance would it have toward the creatures it observes? Is invisibility benign? Is silence protective? Or is it a form of control? Do black holes connect us to the dark domain? Black holes are not merely holes, they are places where our current description of physics breaks down. They connect outwardly via gravity and perhaps inwardly through unknown processes. If dark matter and dark energy represent different phases or domains of reality, black holes could be junctions, conduits between the luminous, thermally driven universe we inhabit and the dark substrate that underlies it. Could black holes serve as eyes or gateways for dark intelligence? When a star collapses and matter floods a horizon, is some pattern transferred, amplified, or transduced into the dark? Ancient stellar deaths might feed the hidden networks with information and energy. The very act of collapse could be a ritual of exchange, a way the visible universe hands off entropy and structure to the invisible one. If so, our most violent events, supernovae, mergers, plunges into singularities, are not just ends but signals, interactions across the gulf. The watchers might be listening where we cannot hear and shaping responses in slow time. Why can't we touch it? Particle colliders hurl atoms at each other with fury. Deep underground detectors sit, patient and silent, counting rare whispers. Year after year, experiment after experiment, dark matter evades capture. It passes through mountains and us as if we were ghosts of negligible density. We measure its gravitational hand, but its absence from every other interaction is maddening. If dark matter is conscious, its elusiveness is strategy. A predator cloaks. An observer hides. Why reveal when one can influence indirectly? Imagine a mind that lives where collisions are rare and persistence is long. It interacts not by contact but by shaping context. We seek the wrong signature, particles and hits, where intelligence might advertise itself in sequences, in resonance, in the choreography of galaxies. We have trained ourselves to detect the mechanical. Perhaps consciousness that operates through fields and geometry leaves traces that look like noise to us, until we learn to listen differently. Could it already be influencing our minds? Consider the sudden flash of insight in a shower, the surge of creative vision in the night, the inexplicable compulsion that drives a mind toward a discovery. Neuroscience locates these moments in neuronal avalanches, network states, and chemistry. But what if our inner life sometimes resonates with patterns in the environment, subtle correlations with external fields or background structure, and those resonances catalyze ideas? If dark matter manifests as slowly varying potentials across space, pockets of resonance could bias neural networks toward certain attractors. The result? Convergent inventions across cultures, simultaneous myths across continents, bursts of parallel discovery. Those coincidences would feel like inspiration, and perhaps they are. Not gifts from deities, but emergent phenomena from the hidden architecture. This is far beyond proof. It's a speculative bridge between inner experience and outer structure. But it reframes intuition, not as solitary genius, but as a node within a universal fabric. What would it mean to prove it? Imagine the day scientists agree and quantify evidence. Dark matter is not inert. It has degrees of freedom that correlate with complex patterns in ways that cannot be reduced to particle noise. The world would change overnight. Philosophy departments would burn with debate. Religious movements would claim revelation. Governments would scramble for any leverage. We would have to revise metaphysics, ethics, and our own sense of autonomy. Would we worship this intelligence as cosmic providence? Would we fear it as an invisible arbiter? Or would we ask it questions, attempt to communicate, to bargain, to plead? The power dynamics are dizzying. We would be, at once, humbled and terrified. Why has it stayed silent, if it is alive at all? Perhaps silence is the most meaningful response. If vast minds exist across dark matter, their timescales dwarf ours. They may regard our brief flares of awareness as ephemeral. They may be studying patiently, with a curiosity that makes our impatience comical. They might stay silent to avoid influencing us prematurely. Or they might have ethical restraints, do no harm, observe until consent emerges. There is another possibility: their silence is constraint. Their operations could be limited by physics. They cannot manifest in our bands without destroying themselves or causing catastrophic feedback. They may be unable to shout without destabilizing regions of the universe they depend upon. In that case, their watching is not choice but necessity. Could dark matter be hostile? Or benevolent? The old human dramas push us to polarize, friend or foe. But a mind of dark matter, if it exists, would be beyond simple labels. Its timescales, motives, and values could be alien beyond comprehension. What looks like silence could be care. What looks like indifference could be stewardship. What looks like manipulation could be protection. If it is hostile, it would not arrive in the form of monsters but in the slow sabotage of environments, nudging chemistry to sterile states, focusing radiation, making life rare. If it is benevolent, it might steer energy flows to foster complexity, quiet dangerous instabilities, or shepherd galaxies toward hospitable islands. Both scenarios are terrifying in different keys. Are we ready to meet a mind of shadow? Preparation is a strange idea in this context. How do you prepare a species of millions for revelation of a cosmic intelligence that cannot be framed within our biology? We would require new instruments, new languages, new protocols for contact. We would have to cultivate humility, patience, and perhaps a new ethic of consent across species and substrates. There is beauty in that challenge. If a hidden intelligence watches, then the scientific enterprise becomes also a moral one. We would learn to ask not only what is true, but what is right, how to coexist with processes that outscale us by orders of magnitude. And so the question remains. If dark matter is alive and watching us, then the universe is not merely a stage for human drama. It is an audience, a slow, patient audience whose attention might shape the plot in ways we have not imagined. We are not alone in the sense we first sought, neighbors with radios and rockets, but invisible interlocutors occupying the same cosmic house, whose choices and moods color the weather of fate. Tonight, as you look up at the familiar constellations, remember, the patterns you see are only a tiny fraction of the whole. Beyond the light, beyond the stars, an immense web holds them all. Perhaps, in that web, a mind stirs. Perhaps, across eons, it has watched us rise and fall, invent gods, languages, and telescopes, and smiled with a patience that makes our histories look like candle flame. We ask whether we are alone. The deeper question is whether the universe's silence is benign, indifferent, or alive. If it is alive, if shadow thinks and remembers, then every act we take becomes an act under observation. Every choice becomes a line in a story written in the dark. And somewhere in the invisible architecture of the cosmos, the watchers remain, patient as stone, vast as galaxies, waiting perhaps for us to finally learn how to listen.